Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session, openBIM Workflows at Autodesk. Thanks for joining us during the lunchtime. We really appreciate it. And we are looking forward to give you a short overview of openBIM Workflows at Autodesk, what's new, and some updates. We have been doing this for a while. If you don't know us, we are Layla. I am an architect and a product manager on the data exchange team, and I'm joined by Angel.
Yeah, I'm on the Revit team. I'm a product owner and an engineer also, and I've been working on Revit for 25 years and IFC almost as long. So.
Yeah, and I've had the honor to learn over the years a lot from Angel. So everything I've learned about IFC, I've learned from you. So thanks for that. Yeah, and we wanted to share 3 fun facts about us. So 3 things we have in common, and you might have guessed some of that. So we both work at Autodesk. We are both proud Autodeskers, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
We are both very passionate about data and IFC, and we are both Star Wars fans. I mean, of course, we have to be, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, Angel, which color is your lightsaber?
I think blue. I think I'll go with blue.
Yeah, I think I'll go with a blue as well. My sweater. But yeah, so I think we clarify that we are not on the dark side.
That's right.
So let's get serious. Safe harbor statement. We will be talking about roadmaps. We will be talking about the future developments and so on. And I'm sure you have already heard this a couple of times during AU, but roadmaps are plans, and plans can change, obviously. So please don't make any purchasing decision based on roadmaps, but only on the features which are already available today. Our agenda for today is basically that we want to give you an overview of openBIM at Autodesk. Then we will have a look at what's new in the 2026 versions of our products, Revit Civil, and so on. Then we will have a short look at the roadmap. So we will see what we are working on. And we will finish with a couple of tips and tricks as every year, according to our tradition. So with this, let's get started, Angel.
Thank you. So we are going to be talking about AC products in general and openBIM standard in general, but any conversation around that really does start with IFC. We've been working with IFC for a long time. Autodesk was right there at the beginning, starting up the International Alliance for Interoperability, all the way through IFC 2x3 and today with IFC 4.3. And we'll even talk a little bit about what's next, talking about IFC 5. So again, anything that we want to start, we're going to start with IFC. And it's not just Revit, even though that's my favorite product. We have IFC support across a number of our applications, starting with X2X3 support all the way again up to IFC 4.3. And we're expanding the products that support it. For example, we'll look later at Autodesk Forma on the bottom right, as kind of a newest entrant into our IFC family. So how do we decide kind of how to improve our work? We really have 3 pillars that we work against. The first one is performant, right? So we want your experience to be as fast as possible. So we think about what do we need to do to improve performance, and that might also not only be speed, but also might be the size of files, for example. Flexibility, we want you to have as good a UI as possible with as many options as makes sense. We know that there isn't a one-size-fits-all to what you need for getting your data out. So we want to be able to make sure that you get the data out that you need in the way that you need to. And most importantly, consistency. It doesn't matter how fast it is or how easy it is to use if the data is wrong. So consistency includes the concept of fidelity, and that every time you export, you get the same information that you expect to get. So I said at the beginning that it isn't just IFC, right? So it's part of a greater environment of open standards. And so here we are partnering with OneStruction to give VSTD and IDS support. So BSCD is the buildingSMART data dictionary. And so you can see here that this plugin works to allow you to select property sets to get from the BSCD, and you can bring them in, and you can see like in the corner, there's Civil 3D. And now here on the big screen, you see Revit also. So again, we're really trying to expand our support across all our products. And as I said before, it's not just BSCD. Fairly new is IDS, so the ability to be able to check your data against what you expect to be there. And so we can create these files that will be the way that you check your data. And again, in Revit and Civil 3D, you can see it working. So please do look up their tools in terms of more than IFC. We don't just rely on third-party tools for open standard support. This, again, not new. This is from last year. But this is, you see, the BCF, Building Collaboration Format, which is a way to do markups and issues. Starting in the ACC viewer, if you have not memorized the Snowden Towers project by now, here's your next chance to look at it. But here you can see someone that's adding, importing some issues, adding them, looking around. And again, this can be brought back into Revit. So you see on the right-hand side, you see some of the issues that were created, and they can be viewed inside Revit also. So that's kind of where we're starting, the environment that we already came into now. And so now we can look at what's new in our 2026 versions. So one of the things that we've been working on for a while, it's been a multi-year project, is again around performance and fidelity. How do we improve the support for IFC in all of our AEC projects? So for a long time, Revit was actually the common engine for Revit and Navisworks and ACC, which is a very big engine for IFC, especially for cloud. So we've been transitioning to using something called the Autodesk Translation Format, which is an internal tool, which allows us to have one engine across our products. So in Revit 2024.2, this manifested itself in Link IFC using this. In Navisworks 2025, you can see that they integrated this tool, and you can see kind of the performance improvements, kind of 2024 versus 2025. And what's new this year, as of July 22nd, is that the ACC viewer now also uses this internal toolkit. So no longer goes through this process of going through Revit and Navisworks to get your data into the cloud. And one of the big things where you see a huge improvement, again, is for data that's georeferenced, so data that's far from the origin. And you could kind of see the before picture, you saw a lot of jaggedy stuff. And now for the after picture, it looks exactly as you expect it to look, nice and clean surfaces. So in Revit 2026, we continue to improve our use of this common engine. And so in the past, we used it for geometry, and now we're also using it for parameter support. And one of the side effects of that is, especially with models that have a lot of parameters, you see a lot of performance improvements. So on average, we're seeing about 50% faster linking IFC files in Revit 2026 over previous versions. Another big issue that we kind of try to address in Revit 2026 is we know that positioning of IFC files is a big problem. And especially in pre-IFC4 files, there's no kind of uniform way to decide how your data is located. And so we've given you some options to help help us decide how to place your project. So again, it defaults to origin, but you have a few other options there too. And this is just part of a bigger package of 130 enhancements and fixes that we made in the Revit 2026 timeframe, which is quite similar to previous releases where we've made a lot of improvements. In Civil 3D, again, the focus is really around performance and fidelity. So you see kind of improvement for supports solid geometries and meshes. You see better calculations for these same objects. Around consistency, there's better support for GUIDs, so that, again, if you're doing clash detection and that matters, or you're doing change tracking, the GUIDs help you figure out what the same objects are. We have smaller file size and better performance. And then the top two well, for the improved design automation support, that's again in the cloud. If you want to export from IFC, there's better support in Civil 3D in 2026 for that. And all of this is being done kind of under the umbrella of using the buildingSMART validation service to make sure that the files, the IFC 4.3 files that Civil 3D is creating are valid according to the schema. So this is very new to have this beta service, and we're really leveraging it across our products. But Civil 3D is really leading in terms of getting as clean files as possible out there. And then Forma site design now has support for exporting proposals to IFC. So again, you can see export as IFC to Forma data management. Yes, I got that right. Slide's a bit old. But again, that allows you to take your Forma proposals and see them in Revit or anywhere else, right? Because it's IFC, it's not some bespoke format. It really is an open way of getting your data out of Forma. So this is kind of the fun part, I think. So again, this is the safe harbor. We're going to show you some things that we're working on but are not done, and I can't tell you when. So the answer to when will we see this is I can't tell you. So we can save that question later on. So for the Revit IFC roadmap, the big thing we're doing first, and we'll go into this for the next couple of slides, is around property set mapping. And so I won't talk about that much right now, because I'll save some time for that later. But other things we're doing, again, around flexibility is we want you to have more access to being able to access IFC from different places. So we want to open up the Open IFC from Revit Home. We also know that when you're linking IFC files, in general, we have a lightweight representation of our data. But we know that the IFC space isn't really what people are expecting. They want rooms when they bring in spaces from IFC. So we're looking at kind of how do you bring in these IFC spaces and create real Revit rooms? Is it all the time? Is it conditional? Those are options. And as I mentioned before, IFC 4 does have georeferencing as part of it. But kind of AC in general is looking at our georeferencing, and we want to make sure that whatever kind of technique we use for that, we include IFC in this. So we already have some georeferencing support, but we want to bundle that into kind of a bigger discussion around georeferencing in AEC products. So I mentioned parameter mapping. So I have promised on stage to Layla in the past that we would get rid of all text files associated with Revit in terms of like configurations. So in Revit 2025, that was our first attempt where we got rid of the very ugly and very old category mapping table, which you had to type things in. It was very easy to make typos. It was very easy to not know what your options were in the first place if you're not an IFC expert. So now you can kind of go through lists and say, oh, here's my class and predefined type and such. So that's already in there. And what we are working on now, and again, this is, a sneak preview, is trying to do the same thing for property sets, right? So we give you some very blunt tools at the moment for exporting property sets, and that includes having to use 2 different text files for specifying user-defined property sets or mapping. And instead, we're trying to do the same thing here. As you can see, you have a top level of, hey, what do I want to support? But now you can really dive in and say, hey, in this particular case, I have a piece set wall common. For the reference, I want to get that from the mark value. So you can kind of see on the left-hand side, the mark is set to garden wall 1. And we want the piece set wall common reference to be that. So now we export, and we bring that into a viewer, and we select the wall, and we very slowly scroll up and hope that we see garden wall 1, and there it is, right? So again, that's just one part of it, the part of being able to map IFC properties to Revit properties, but also to have much more granular control about specifically which properties you are exporting, and also the ability to create the user-defined property sets as part of the UI instead of as part of a bunch of text files. One thing I do want to say is that if you do have text files, we will import them, so they're not all obsolete. You don't need to use them. But if you already have them, we will support them. So for Civil 3D, moving forward, again, kind of using our pillars, it's really about improved performance and improved flexibility. So alignments are huge on the civil side, right? So we're going to expand the ability to reference things to IFC alignments. Clearly, that's very important for all kind of your civil projects. And more importantly, kind of as we're doing property mapping on the Revit side, that's also important for the Civil 3D side. And their Civil 3D is going to ship with some country-specific mapping files based on kind of layer standards in the various parts of the world. So hopefully that helps with setting up your projects properly. Now, granular data.
Thanks, Angel. So data exchange is probably something you may have heard already also during the AI keynote. So data exchange for IFC is available on all ACC projects created after July 22nd. So you notice the connection with the new IFC converter we have on ACC level. And with data exchange, you can basically create subsets of granular data, which is then stored on ACC. And by doing so, you extract only the data you need from huge IFC files, and these IFC files can then, these data exchanges can then be linked to tools like Revit or also to Power BI or to Tekla, Rhino. There is a bunch of data exchange connectors you are able to use, and basically this lets you work a little bit more flexibly and load only the data you need and when you need it. And in addition, you can also use this data, as mentioned, in the Power BI to create dashboards, which can be shared in a more flexible way with all the stakeholders, no matter if they have skills in specific BIM software or if they know how to work with BIM data or not, because everyone can work with the Power BI dashboard, right? And if you would like to learn more about the data exchanges, there is a QR code here, which will lead you to the link list, which basically gives you all the information about data exchanges, the currently available connectors, documentation, and so on. And to hear even more exciting things about the granular data, I will hand over to Angel again.
Yes, so staying on granular data, and I promise to tell you why this is related to IFC very soon. We are putting granular data in the cloud. We have already released the ability to publish your model and get parameters. And as of a week ago, we're now publishing geometry as part of the AC data model. So if you are interested in finding out more about that, that is a beta. You can scan that giant QR code there also and join the geometry beta. And as I said, how is this related to IFC? The way it's related to IFC, well, we'll see a little preview of using it, right? So here we're using the Autodesk Assistant, because there has to be AI somewhere in here, and to bring in a model. So this is a simple model here, and we're going to do some checking. So we're going to check to see a subset of the model here, and we're going to do some clash detection in a second, after we're done with this model analysis. But more importantly, after we do the clash detection, we want to get the data out. So how are we going to get the data out of here? We're going to use IFC. So the current way of getting data out of the AC data model for geometry is IFC 4.3. This is, again, a beta. This is very primitive support. We expect to expand it. And if you join the beta, I would love to hear kind of how you speak about, like, this is the data I want to see, so please work on this next. But definitely kind of shows how we started with the open standards as our thought of how you are able to get data from the cloud. And speaking of which, as I said, we're using IFC 4.3. But what we really would like to use is IFC 5. So IFC 5 right now, we've been talking about it for a long time. It's in a pre-alpha version. But a couple of my coworkers were able to, in 2 days, using AI, take the IFC 5 pre-alpha schema and a number of sample models. And here you can see them creating a local server that allows you to view the data. So again, kind of the interesting thing here is that while IFC 5 is not ready yet, it is really becoming a real thing, right? And again, what is this? This is about granular, open data that's AI friendly for everyone, right? And a way to access the data. So we do expect that as IFC5 becomes more real, then we will be paying attention to how do we make sure we can get data in and out using IFC5. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Leila for some tips and tricks.
Thank you, Angel. So we have shared a lot of tips and tricks over the years. So there are a couple of recordings of our sessions from the previous years, which you can find on the Autodesk University website. So make sure to check them out for a full overview. This year, due to the length of our session, we will keep this section short and focus on a very current topic, which is again the IFC 4.3 in Revit. So I'm sure we already all know that the big change in IFC 4.3 was the new IFC structure, which introduced the new facility types for the infrastructure. And these can be selected in the IFC export setting and will replace the IFC building with a bridge, a railway, road, and so on, depending on your use case. And in a second step, it is important to assign your Revit elements to the correct IFC export as property. And this can be done easily through the great mapping dialog developed by Angel and his team, which we saw before, which lets you just search and pick the desired IFC class and type according to the IFC schema. So you don't need to type it yourself, you only need to pick it from the list. And in order to structure this even further, you can use the levels. And as levels are a concept developed for the vertical structures and may not always be as easy to use for the horizontal structures, we have implemented the IFC spatial structure parameter, which you can use to manually assign spatial containers by entering simply the actual name of the level. And as you can see on the lower screenshot, this will create a spatial container for all the elements with this property, and this will be visible in the IFC file structure in an IFC viewer. So last but not least, we would like to remind you of our official Autodesk IFC manual, which you can access through this QR code. And the manual provides a more in-depth documentation and answers to the most of the frequently asked questions around IFC. And we are also updating it regularly, so expect some more news on this page soon as well. And with that, we have a little bit of time for some of your questions. So if you have a question, please feel free to grab a microphone. There are two here, and share your questions with us. And if you are too shy, of course, you can also talk to us later after the session around here.
Really?
Any questions? Angel, we did such a great job. Nobody has questions.
That's right, yeah.
You already answered all the questions, right? Yeah.
Oh, could you grab a microphone?
You were speaking about how the IFCs were generated from both Revit and SimSymphony. I don't know if this makes sense, but is there ever a thought of not even worrying about letting the desktop application create them, but just have it done in an ACC?
So I think that, well, I mean, as you saw through the AEC GM geometry beta, there's definitely an idea that you could publish from the cloud, right?
Exactly.
So
because if more and more teams are starting to work and host their Revit files within the cloud, there's just this sort of sensibility, even when you're loading I think it's called the shared parameters tool, into Revit, like some of the interfaces that you're doing for the mapping, whether or not we're all just bringing it into that single source of truth and being able to use the IFC file format.
yeah, no, and that's definitely, we already have some partial solutions to that, right? And to be able to create IFC from the cloud as opposed to from the desktop. There's design automation. You could use data exchanges. So absolutely, yep.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a question about the geometry that you mentioned. Was it the AEC data model that you Currently, my understanding is that that does not include material information from Revit in particular. When you incorporate geometry, will you include material names and material quantities through that IFC 4.3?
Yeah, that is the intent. It may not be there today because again, this is version 0.001 or whatever. But absolutely, you'd want to expect material information to be exported. Yes.
So if you're interested in that, should you join the beta?
Yes. Join the beta, and again, if that's the key thing that you see, oh, this is missing, this is the most important thing to me, that's great feedback because then the team can be like, okay, well, let's work on that next and get that into the next iteration of the beta.
It's a critical thing for calculating embodied carbon. Like if you have the quantities, you need the materials as well, the material categories.
Yeah, the long-term goal here, by the way, is that an IFC file created from the AC data model would be just as good as an IFC file created from Revit. So absolutely everything, including materials, is on the table for being exported.
Thank you.
Thank
Anyone
you for
else?
the great questions. If there are no more questions, wish you a great last day at AU, great afternoon. Thanks for joining us, and see you next year.
Thank you.